بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we are able to have our session today. I have just arrived in Montreal and I was not able to record for you because today I was traveling, but maybe it's better that we have this session live. Inshallah, today we will study two lessons which are very much related. The first is about some of the rulings related to Mahiyya as such. If you remember, we several times studied and I wrote also on the board this important philosophical rule. Al-Mahiyyatu min haythu hiya laysat illa hiya. La mawjuda wa la ma'duma. Mahiyya in itself, Mahiyya as such, is just itself, nothing else, neither existing, existent, or non-existent. This is what today, inshallah, we want to explain more, and then, inshallah, after that, we will talk about different conditions of Mahiyya with respect to additional qualities. You know, when we consider a Mahiyya, we may attribute to it many things. For example, when we talk about insan in a general sense or about particular human beings, we may say things which are essential or part of the Mahiyya of insan. We may say things which are not essential. They can be implications of Mahiyya or even accidental to Mahiyya. For example, when I say al-insanu haywanun or al-insanu natiqun or al-insan haywanun natiqun or al-insanu jismun namin hassasun mutaharrikun bil irada natiqun. So whether you compress it or analyze it, mention all of it or part of it, all these concepts can be used as predicates for insan. Basically, you are bringing jins or fast, whether it is jins akhir, the last genus, or the primary ones, or the intermediate jins, the last differentia, or the intermediate ones. So you are referring to the essential elements in insaniya, in human being. Haywaniya, natiqiya, or jismiyat, or namiyat, to be a physical body, to have life, to be animal, to be natiq, to be thinking. These are all part of the definition of insan, part of the mahiyya, whatness and quiddity of insan. But for example, you may say al-insanu, for example, harisun ala ma muna. Human beings become greedy when they are banned with respect to something, they may actually become more interested. Of course, there can be lots of other things that can bear on this, but in general, people who are not very rational, if you ask them not to do something, they may be more eager to do it, unless they are very rational. Even sometimes, children, for example, when they don't eat food, so some parents, tell them, don't eat food, then they eat food. So they do the opposite sometimes. If you say eat food, they may not eat. But if you say don't eat, then they may eat. Okay. This sentence, al-insanu harisun ala ma huna. Or for example, in the Quran, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ عَجُولًا. Man has tendency towards being hasting. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Man has been created weak. We are, by our physics, weak and vulnerable. We can become ill, tired, hungry, thirsty, die. This is possible. Okay, these are also things that we attribute to insan. What is the difference when you say al-insanu haywanun or natiqun, or analyze it, you say al-insanu jismun namin hassasun mutaharrikun bil irada natiq, and when you say al-insanu harisun ala ma huna, al-insanu ajul, al-insanu dha'if, and so on and so forth. Or you come to particular, say this man is a writer, this person is a poet, this person is an artist, this person is a good friend. These are different from the first type. In the first type, we were concerned about those things which relate to mahiyya of insan min haythu hiya as such, insofar as it is insan. Here, we are not delving into the mahiyya. We are talking about the things that can be used to describe human beings. They are possibly true properties for human beings, but they're not essential. They are not coming out of the essence. Some of them may be sometimes there, sometimes maybe not there, but even something that can be always with insan, still this doesn't guarantee that it is essence of insan. There can be some things that are not inside, but still are always with you. Like, for example, human beings are weak. We are always weak. In our body, we are always weak, but this is not part of our mahiyya. Okay. So, there are two types of predicates, descriptions that we can use to describe human beings. Of course, when we are talking about human being, it's about every mahiyya. I am just mentioning, like book, the example of human beings, but you can consider any mahiyya, any animal, any bird, any, physical material, living beings, non-living beings, they are all the same. Mahiyya is sometimes used as a subject, and you are focusing on mahiyya's essence, nothing else. And sometimes you are talking about things that existentially can be true about that mahiyya. So, when we say al-mahiyyatu min haythu hiya, or al-mahiyyatu laysat min haythu hiya, you can say al-mahiyyatu min haythu hiya laysat illa hiya, or al-mahiyyatu laysat min haythu hiya illa hiya. What we mean is that mahiyya by itself, mahiyya as such, mahiyya, if you only focus on mahiyya itself, is only itself. Every mahiyya is itself. Insan is insan, horse is horse, dog is dog, donkey is donkey, rose flower is rose flower. You can analyze it into jins and fasl. You can analyze it further and even, for example, analyze its jins into a lower and more underlying jins and fasl. Like, for example, haywan by itself can be divided into al-jism, al-nami, al-hassas, al-mutaharrik bil-irada. the physical body which has life and also has sensitivity and has voluntary motion. This is animal. So Mahiya, if it is taken in this way, min haythu hiya, only we focus on Mahiya itself, we take it as such, then the only thing that we can use as predicates is essentials. It's essential parts. But if you look at this Mahiya in a different way, and you want to see this Mahiya exists in the external world or not. For example, you can say, Al-insanu mawjudun. We have human being, for example, either in general or in this room, we have human being. Or, for example, we don't have human being in that room. Or human being is, for example, patient or impatient. Human being is weak or not weak. So, in this type of predicates, in this type of descriptions that we are going outside the essence of something, outside the mahi of something, we can say many, many things. And for sure, when something is true, its opposite is not true. Because two contradictory things can not both of them be denied or negated. Any quality, either human beings have it or don't have it. Wujud, either they have wujud or don't have wujud. Strong or not, tall or not. This is when it comes to the real world. But when we go to the essence of Mahiya, and this is very subtle point, please pay attention. I hope what we said so far has prepared the ground for this point. When we go inside the essence, and I say, insan is haywan, okay. Insan is natiq, okay. But if there is something which is not part of the Mahiya, like wujud, is it wrong to say that insan min haythu hiya laysa bimawjud? No, it is not wrong. Because wujud is not taken as part of insan. It's not jins or fast for insan. Insan can be mawjud, can be not mawjud. So I can say al-insanu min haythu hiya laysa bimawjud. No problem. Even if insan exists, we have millions or billions of human beings, still I can say al-insanu min haythu hiya laysat bimawjuda. And I mean, wujud is not part of the mahi of insan. I can also say al-insanu min haythu hiya laysat bima'duma. Non-existence is not also part of insan. Inside mahi of insan, there is no mention of wujud or adam. So, we can say neither wujud nor adam are inside the mahi. And this is not contradiction. Don't say how something can be neither mawjud nor ma'dum. I didn't say it's not neither mawjud nor ma'dum. No, in reality, either human beings exist or not. That is existential prescription. But when we go to mahi of insan, neither wujud is taken nor adam is taken. If wujud was taken, it means that insan must have always existed. If adam was taken, it means that insan must have always been non-existent. But we know that insan is mumkinul wujud, can exist and can not exist. So this is why philosophers say, al-mahiyatu min haythu hiya laysat illa hiya. Mahiya as such, it's not except itself. Anything is true to be used as a predicate for itself, either as a whole, al-insanu insanun, or analyze it, al-insanu haywanun natiq. Or you can say al-insanu haywanun, al-insanu natiqun. All these things are about mahi as such. But wujud, no. Adam, no. Wahid, kathir, strong, weak, these are not part of the mahiyya. Although we know that either these concepts or their opposite must be true existentially. But still we say they are not included in the mahiyya. So this is very important. The other thing is that you have to always know, I think I told you once, maybe in philosophy or usul, that haythiyat are very, very important. You know, there's a beautiful sentence which says, لولا الحيثيات لبطلت العلوم. You know, when we say something from this perspective or from that perspective, these perspectives are very important. For example, the same person from one perspective can be father, from another perspective can be his son, from another perspective can be a brother, from another perspective can be uncle, from another perspective can be nephew. The same person. These haysiyat, these ways of considering something are very important. We talk about physical objects in physics. We talk about them in chemistry. But why they are different? Why physics is different from chemistry? Because the way physics studies physical bodies or objects is more about their motion and changes which are superficial or changes which are not essential. Chemistry is more towards the internal qualities and essential changes and new material coming out of combination or separation. But it's the same subject. It's about physical objects, but from different aspects. So in any case, we have to be very careful. The same thing, depending on which perspective, which consideration you have, can have different ruling. We are talking in philosophy about mahiyya min haythu hiya, so we have to only discuss that part and anything related to mahiyya as such. If in philosophy we are talking about wujud or alam wujud, the objective world, the world of realities and objective things, then any mahiyya either has something or doesn't have it. But when you talk about essence of mahiyya, you can say it doesn't have neither wujud nor adam. None of them is mentioned. None of them is included in mahiyya. Okay. A question may arise, which I think I have already explained, how it comes that you can negate both wujud and adam from mahiyya. You say al-mahiyyatu min haythu hiya laysat bimawjuda wala ma'duma. Or for example, you say al-mahiyyatu min haythu hiya laysa wahid wala kasir. To be one or many is not inside mahiyya. You can have one insan, you can have many insans, you can have no insan in the world. There was a time that there was no insan. It's possible. So wahda or kathra, to be one or multiple, is not included in the essence, in the mahiyya of insan. No problem. If someone says, oh, this is contradiction, this is tanaqud, you say neither mawjud nor ma'dum. You say, we don't say in reality insan is neither existent nor non-existent. Of course, it's clear that everything is either existing in the real world or not. What we want to say is that none of wujud or adam is included in the mahiyya of insan. And actually, this is the reason why they can sometimes exist and they can sometimes be non-existent. So, if you are talking about mahiyya min haythu hiya, in the sense that you want to see whether inside mahiyya there is wujud or adam, we say none of them, wujud or adam, is inside mahiyya. But if you want to talk about mahiyya min haythu hiya as an objective thing, okay, we can say al-mahiyatu min haythu hiya is only in mind. Mahiyya min haythu hiya doesn't exist in the real world. Because in the real world, you have always mahiyya with some extra things, some attachments, some additional things. Inshallah, we'll explain this in the next lesson. So, there is no contradiction in saying al-mahiyatu min haythu hiya laysat illa hiya la mawjuda wa la ma'duma. And as I said, this is about any mahiyya, not only about insan. The other way to explain this is to use a concept that you are already familiar. We have had it before. You remember we said we have two types of haml, predication. Al-haml al-awwali, or haml awwali al-dhati, or just haml awwali. And we have also haml shay'i sana'i. In haml awwali, primary predication, our focus is on explaining mahiyya. In haml shay'i, we are talking about realities, about the objective world. Alamul waqi', al-alamul ayni, al-alamul khariji, the external world, the real world. For example, sometimes we talk about insan as a concept which is in our mind, which is kulli. Al-insanu bil-haml al-awwali kulliyun is a universal concept. It can be used for describing many insans, many human beings. But if you are talking about insan bil-haml al-shay'i, means you are talking about insan which exists outside. Zayd, Amr, Bakr. That insan is not kulli. Kulli can only be in mind. So sometimes you are talking about mahiyya bil-haml al-awwali, al-insan bil-haml al-awwali, which is only something that zihn and mind can consider. You can focus on it and only say that al-insan bil-haml al-awwali haywanun natiq, or haywanun, or natiqun, or jismun namin hassasun mutaharrikun bil-irada natiqun. Anyway, something which is about jins and fast and essential elements of insan. This is bil-haml al-awwali. And nothing else can be used bil-haml al-awwali for insan. Al-insan bil-haml al-awwali, neither you can say it's mawjud or ma'dum. But sometimes we talk bil-haml al-shay'i. We are talking about instances of insan in the real world. Okay, then either they exist or don't exist. Either they are, for example, writers or not, poets or not, good or bad. They can have many properties. So this is another way of talking about al-mahiyya min haythu hiya. The next lesson is about what philosophers call i'tibaratul mahiyya. Different types of considering mahiyya. You can say considerations of mahiyya or different types of considering mahiyya. It's very easy if you pay attention. I can explain it, inshallah, very quickly. And this is one of the things that you very much benefit from in philosophy, in even usul al-fiqh. You very much benefit from this. In many sciences, even in ethics, you can consider, use this, in moral reasoning. Mahiyya can be considered with respect to anything, in relation to anything. For example, water, water is a mahiya. With respect to temperature, I want to understand the relation between water and temperature, like for example being hot or cold. Sometimes we say, I want cold water. For example, in summer, someone is very thirsty and he wants cold water. He doesn't just want water. So if you give him a hot water or even warm water, he may not want it. He says, I want cold water. So here, it's water with the condition of being cold. Or for example, sometimes it says, أَعْتِقْ رَقَبَةً مُؤْمِنَةً. Raqabah is a general mahiyya. But you say raqabatan mu'minatan. You have additional condition. So sometimes mahiyya is considered with an additional quality. It's like a condition for it. This is what we call al-mahiyatu bishart shay. Al-mahiyatu bishart shay. Mahiyya with the condition of having something else. Like water with the condition of having cold temperature. Or a slave with the condition of being mu'min. This type of mahiyya is called al-mahiyatul makhlutah. Means mixed. Mahiyya which is mixed with something additional. Okay. This is one way of considering mahiyya. Sometimes we say, I want this mahiyya without this quality. Bishart la. The condition is that this second thing must not be there. For example, I say, I want water which is not salty. Saltiness has to be rejected, negated. So what type of water you want? I want water without saltiness. Or for example, someone doesn't want sugar in water. Says water which is not sweet. I have, for example, diabetes. I want water which is not with sugar. So here it is called al-mahiyatu bishart la. Mahiyya with the condition of negating that other concept. It is also called al-mahiyatul mujarrada. Mujarrada means mahiyya which is naked, or mahiyya which is separated, mahiyya which is disconnected, detached from another concept. Sometimes I say, I want water. It doesn't make difference whether it is, for example, hot or cold. For example, I want water to make building. If it is cold or warm or room temperature, it doesn't matter for me. Or for example, I want to make tea. Even if you give me cold water, I can heat it and boil it. If it is warm, no problem. Room temperature, no problem. Even if it is cold, no problem. We heat it. This is called al-mahiyatu la bishartin. Mahiyya without condition. Neither condition of having or condition of not having. It's not bishart shay and it is not la bishart. Bishart la. It's neither bishart shay nor bishart la. Neither having that is a condition nor not having is a condition. This is called la bishart. There is no condition. at all. It means condition of wujud or condition of adam. So when we consider mahiyya with any concept, any other mahiyya, any other thing, any other notion or concept, either it has to be with that, or it has to be without that, or it is neutral. If that extra thing is needed, it's called al-mahiyatu bisharat shay or al-mahiyatu al-makhluta. If it has to be without that, free from that, empty from that, it is called al-mahiyatu al-mujarrada bishart la. La means no, none. Or it's neutral, it doesn't make difference, that condition is not changing the situation, our ruling is not affected by that. This is called la bisharta. It's not conditional upon having or not having. La bisharta. Okay. Then scholars go further and say, okay, this maqsam, you remember in mantiq we had this in usul al-fiqh, also we have had this, that we say maqsam and then we have aqsam. You consider something and then divide it into different types. For example, we can say al-insanu rajulun aw imra'atun. Human being can be divided to man and woman. Men and women. Human beings. So human being is maqsam. Men and women are qism. Plural is aqsam. These are different types of insan. So insan is maqsam, is divided into these two, or sometimes can be many parts. For example, we say human beings are either Muslims or Christians or Jews or Zoroastrians or Hindus or Buddhists or Sikhs and so on and so forth. So there can be many aqsam, many types for maqsam, which is insan. Okay, now let's go back to i'tibaratul mahiyya. You said when we consider mahiyya in relation with something, either it is bisharta shay, that thing is needed, or bishart Allah, that must be rejected, negated, left aside, or it's neutral, la bishart. So what about this maqsam itself? Of course, this maqsam is also to be without condition, because if I say ma al-ma'ul har or al-ma'u ghayrul har, then I cannot divide it into three parts. If that condition is put in maqsam or is taken away from maqsam, it cannot be divided. So maqsam is la bishart, and qism also is sometimes la bishart. So mahiyya considered with something else without making any condition is either bishart shay or bishart la or la bishart. To distinguish between la bishart, which is in the same level as bishart shay and bishart la, from la bishart, which is maqsam, they call la bishart qismi and la bishart maqsami. That one which is on the top and can be bishart or bishart la or la bishart, it is called maqsami. That one which is in the bottom is qismi. What is the difference? This is a very important question. La bishart qismi means that itlaq is included in its definition. We say that it is neutral, and neutrality is inside its notion. Therefore, it cannot be conditional. It cannot be bishart shay or bishart la. It has to be neutral. But لا بشرط مقسمی, to be with or without, doesn't make difference. It is inclusive. It can include بشرط شيء, بشرط لا بشرط. All the three. So, this is very important things. Sometimes you have mutlaq in the sense that it has to be free from conditions. Therefore, it cannot be seen with those conditions. Sometimes you say, no, those conditions are not important for me. But even if they are, it's okay. In la bishart maqsami, we say those conditions are not my concern. It can be with condition, without condition, or neutral. But when it comes to qismi, it cannot be with condition and it cannot be against condition. Bishart shay or bishart la, both are to be left. Therefore, some ulama have said that indeed bishart shay exists. You can have bishart shay. Like for example, we want raqabiyya mu'minah. We want water which is cold or hot. Bishart Allah also can exist. For example, we say we want to employ an alim who is not sinful. So sinfulness is to be rejected. Alim bishart adam al-fisq. Okay. But alim who is not fasiq or adil, or water which is not to be hot or which is not important, it is be hot or it's not, for example, it can be neither be cold or not cold. None of them must be making any difference. Some have said that this does not exist in the world. La bishart qismi cannot exist because in reality something is coming with it. Mahiyat in Kharaj, in the real world, always come with thousands, if not millions, of additional things. Can you find a human being free from anything extra? No. We are human being and we have gender. We are human being and we have color. We have shape. We have weight. We have gender. We have, for example, different experiences, different memories, different upbringing, different geographical location, different timing. You cannot have simply human beings in the real world. You would have lots of, or for example, can you have just whiteness in the real world? No. You can have white paper, you can have white, plaster, you can have white dress, but there must be something. You cannot have just white without anything else. Cannot exist in the real world. So this is the discussion about i'tibaratul mahiyya, and as I said, it's very important to note that it's only in mind that you can consider a mahiyya in a very flexible way, or mahiyya which is simple, which is absolute. Otherwise, in the real world, mahiyya either has some quality or doesn't have that quality. You cannot have three conditions. Okay, alhamdulillah, we managed to finish 2 lessons, and inshallah we would enter from next session the 7th section of the book, inshallah. So if you have questions, I am happy to take your questions, and otherwise we can finish now. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.